Welcome to Garden Delights. I'm Susan Howington, Family Consumer Science Agent with the Henry County Cooperative Extension, partnership with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. Today we're going to talk about blackberries. We're going to make a wonderful blackberry cobbler, and it's going to be low fat. You're going to hear from Frank Hancock, our Agriculture and Natural Resource Agent, and he's going to talk a little bit more about those blackberries. So we'll see you back in just a little bit on Garden Delights. Welcome back to Garden Delights. Today we're talking about blackberries, and I will tell you, blackberries is one of my favorite fruits. I remember as a child, we had to go pick blackberries with my family, and I remember wearing jeans and long sleeve shirts to make sure we didn't have any scars of prickly or scratches or anything else, and it wasn't too much fun because blackberries always come in when it's really hot. So by the time you get done picking the blackberries, you are all sweaty and hot. But they are worth it. So let's talk about why they're worth it. They are wonderful in fiber. So remember to make sure you put those blackberries on your list. They're great in fiber. If you're looking for something that's fiber in your diet, blackberries is one to pick. They're also very good in vitamin A, E, and K. So think about your vitamins. Wonderful source of minerals. And they are powerful in those natural antioxidants. So make sure you're looking for blackberries when you're picking that fruit in the grocery store, or better than that, do like we do. We have blackberries in behind our office space, and we can pick our own blackberries. So before the show, I decided I'd pick some blackberries so we can make that low-fat blackberry cobbler. So just remember, they are wonderful. They are wonderful in all those minerals, nutrients that you can eat. And also, they are cholesterol-free, sodium-free, saturated fat-free, all those good things that we don't need in our diet. That's the reason why you need blackberries. Now let's talk about the selection. You can see these blackberries we just picked. They are dark black, and that's what you want. You want them shiny, you want them plump, because if they're decaying and rotting, they're no good. So pick them when they're good. So how are we going to keep them so they'll stay good? We're going to put them in that refrigerator once we pick them. They'll stay in your refrigerator maybe 3 to 6 days. I would say after 3 days, decide what you want to do. To me, cook that low-fat cobbler pie. If I was not going to cook a pie or a cobbler, then I would freeze them. They freeze wonderfully. But there's one drawback. Once you freeze them, just freeze them as is. Don't wash them until you eat them. So once you get ready to eat the blackberries, that's when you want to wash them, because that will make the berry soggy. And so drain them really well, make sure they're really dry, and then decide what you're going to do as far as baking with them. But they store very well in your refrigerator. They store very well in your freezer. But the freezer's going to prolong them longer so you can keep those blackberries for whatever you're going to bake with. So we come back, we'll see what Frank's talking about on those blackberries, and I'll come back and do a low-fat cobbler. So we'll see you back in just a little bit on Garden Delights.
Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about blackberries. We got some blackberries growing behind me here, several different varieties. Most of them are upright varieties. I think I've got one trailing type. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. Blackberries are fairly easy to grow. They like a pH of 6 to 6.5, similar to what your other vegetable garden plants like to have. So you treat the soil similar to what you would with your vegetable garden. Blackberries are produced on floricanes, so they have primocanes and floricanes, and the primocanes are this year's growth, and then the floricanes are the second year's growth. So what we have here on these blackberries, you see the blackberries are on the floricanes. This is last year's growth that produces the berries. And then behind me here are the primocanes. These are the canes that came out this year, that this is this year's growth. So right now, the floor canes, after they produce the berries, they're going to die back, and I'm going to prune them off down at the ground as soon as they get through producing all the berries they're going to produce. And so they'll be gone, and then I'll start training this year's primocanes to this wire. Now, my wires were put up with upright blackberries in mind. What you normally might do is have 3 wires and have the bottom wire about 24 inches off the ground, and then 18 inches between the next 2. That gets you up to 5 feet high on your trailing type blackberries. But since we're working with uprights right now, this wire is fine just to hold them in place so they don't droop over and get on the ground and the wind blow them over. So we want to prune these about 40 inches above the ground is where we want them to be, and we're going to train them to the wire. So, you know, without measuring it, this is about what I want to prune right here. We can take some off of that one right there. This is going to make them branch out, that they're going to spread out now after being pruned. I like to use pipe cleaners, and I'll just take the pipe cleaner and I'll pull this over to the wire, and I can't be too rough with it. It's got, you know, it was wanting to lean out, so I got to get it where it holds it as much as I can over to the wire. Then I want to fan out on these other branches just to kind of spread them out so they don't all wind up in the same spot. The reason I use pipe cleaners is because they're easy to put on and take off, and the 4-H Club has got a lot of pipe cleaners that I can use, so they're easy to come by in the office versus wire ties. You could use wire ties. They're a little bit harder to get off. And I can, you know, I can loop these out so I don't put a lot of stress on them to hold them in. Then we have a floor cane here on the other side. Let me turn this, a primocane, let me turn this floor cane loose over here so I can bring this into the wire. And we're kind of fanning it out, and I'm expecting to get some growth out of these now. And this keeps them up off the ground, makes it easy for me to harvest next year's crop. The other thing about pipe cleaners is I can use them in here to pull it all together on the same pipe cleaner. I don't have to have a new pipe cleaner for every branch. So that's kind of generally what I want to do. I got it fanned here. I've got it shortened. I'm going to take the tip off of these that I haven't taken anything off of, just so that I can get them to branch out. So now I got the rest of the summer for them to grow, and I'll come back here and take these floor canes out once they've died back. And these have produced a really good crop this year. I can't show you a whole lot of blackberries here because I think I saw Susan out here in the garden earlier, but you can see there's quite a few berries on this still that she missed. But since she's going to be fixing something with blackberries today, I figured we'd let her have them. And so I'm going to pull all of these back into the wire. As we move down the row here to the next one, I'm gonna do a similar thing to it. We're gonna bring it back and get rid of some of that tall growth, and planning on it coming to be producing next year's crop. And we'll get them up on the wire here, and we'll have them set for next year. We might be able to come back and take another look at these. And I'll do the same thing here. I'll fan them out. I'm about to run out of pipe cleaner, so I'll come back and do it in a few minutes. But same thing, I want to pull them over to my wire, and just wrap them in there fairly loosely. I don't want to harm the plant, and then we'll fan it out. And that's pretty much what we do to blackberries. We'll fertilize them a little bit here into June, 1st of July, and we'll fertilize them back in May, April, late April, when they first start growing again in the spring. They get a few insects on them you have to watch for, so they might need to spray a few insects. But other than that, they're pretty trouble-free. They just sit here and put blackberries on, and you don't have to do a whole lot of work with them once you get them established. So I think what we're going to do now is go in here and see what Susan is fixing with blackberries.
We're going to be talking about the blackberries, and we're going to make that low-fat cobbler blackberries. And first I'm going to start and just tell you this. These blackberries came from our garden in the back of our office space. And the good thing about our blackberries, you know, I was telling you about the blackberries when I picked them. They had all these prickly little thorns on them. The good thing about blackberries now, you can buy them and plant them thornless. So what a great way to pick them. So I picked these and didn't have to worry about any scratches or anything like that. I just did it early in the morning to keep from the heat. So what I'm going to tell you is, for the recipe, you're going to need about 2 cups of the blackberries. So I'm going to go ahead and pour them in. And what I did is I have taken 1 teaspoon of this 1/2 cup of sugar that I'm going to end up using. And what I want to do is just take this sugar, and I'm going to take that 1 teaspoon, I'm going to drop it just on top of the berries. And I'm going to toss those berries just so they have the sugar on them when we bake it. And I'll tell you how we're going to do that in just a second. But I'm just going to go ahead and toss those blackberries just so they're a little coated with the sugar. And I will tell you, blackberries will stain. So when you're making whatever you're making with blackberries, make sure you don't get it on you, because if you do, it will stain your clothes and you'll have to figure out how to get it out. So that's the reason I'm using this dark spoon, so hopefully it won't show any blackberries. So I have those now just tossed with some sugar. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the dry ingredients first. This is a 1/2 cup of plain flour. We also have 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and then we also have 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now this is making this like a self-rising, so to substitute, if you did not have plain flour, you could do the 1/2 cup of self-rising flour. So we're going to pour that in first, and then next, move this around just a little bit. This is a 1/2 cup of sugar, less that 1 teaspoon that I put on the berries. And then I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. This is just 1 tablespoon of light margarine. So I'm just going to put it into my milk, because I want to just have it already mixed in with that part of it. And so what you're going to do, this is going to be the wet part of it. So I'm going to take this milk and I'm going to put it into the dry ingredients. I'm going to mix it up. And it just seems like when you pour it in the milk, the butter just kind of stays, it doesn't separate as bad when you're trying to move everything around. So all you need to do, and you'll see it's pretty wet, because the neat thing about this cobbler is we're going to take the wet ingredients and we're going to put them at the bottom of our 8x8 Pyrex pan. And if you have another type, that's fine, but just make sure it's about an 8x8, because this is going to make about 4 servings. if you have a big family coming and you want to make a bigger cobbler, you can double this. It works really well, and then you'll need like a 9 by 12 type pan. So we're just going to stir this up. I want to make sure I get the flour mixed in really good. And you are going to take this wet ingredient, and I have also this pan has already been sprayed with some oil, so it just keeps it from sticking. So that's the main thing you want to have prepped in time. And then you want to have your oven about 350, and this is going to take you about 35 to 40 minutes depending on your oven to bake. And so you'll want to check it, after maybe 30 minutes to see how the brownness is coming on the bottom and also on the top. So this is a different type of cobbler if you've never seen it this way. We're going to pour the liquid part into the bottom. So I want to make sure I get all this out. And then, let's see if I can set all this inside of it. Move this around. We're going to take this, and I am going to spoon the blackberries on top of this. So I'm just going to kind of spoon them around, make sure I get them in different locations of the Pyrex dish, because I don't want them all in the center. I want them all around, so when you take a bite of the low-fat cobbler, you're getting a little bit of the blackberries. And this is saying about 2 cups. If you want more berries, add more berries to it. But I like the cobbler part of it too, so I'm going to have to admit I love the crust part around those berries too. So if you'll just kind of place them around, just like this, making sure I get them in the corners. And when it bakes, it's really neat how it happens, but it just happens that the dough is going to rise and the berries are going to be immersed in that cobbler, so it's going to make it really tasty. So it's going to look just like this. You're going to bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes in a 350 oven, and then when it comes out, it's going to be great. It's going to smell great. And so when we come back, we'll have Frank and we'll taste this low-fat blackberry cobbler. See you back in just a little bit. Welcome back to Garden Delights, Frank. We have a low-fat blackberry cobbler.
I saw you out there picking blackberries.
Yeah, I didn't want you to know, but I had to have them for the show.
Okay, well, I guess we'll let you go this time.
I guess so, since I did cook something that you can eat with them.
Right, I'm
okay.
ready.
I'll let you try then. I also did a little bit something that I probably shouldn't have done, is I'm going to try to get the corner because I love the crust part of it.
Yeah, put it right there next to that ice cream.
I know. I decided to break down and give you a little bit of ice cream to go with it. You think about cobbler, and when you think about cobbler, what do you think about?
Always need a little bit of ice cream.
I know, me too, me too.
All right, let's see what we got.
It's still hot too. I see it coming off, so don't burn your mouth. Maybe mix it a little bit with the cool and the hot.
That's good.
That is good.
That's what blackberries are for.
Exactly. And, it's a little low fat than regular cobbler, so it doesn't mean we can eat more of it. It just means
it was low fat till you put that ice cream down there beside it, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Well.
But it sure does mix really good together, doesn't it?
It's good.
Well, check out the website for the recipe. And Frank and I will see you next time on Garden Delights.
You have to be careful when you're picking blackberries because blackberries are red when they're green. So don't eat the red blackberries. It's my tip of the day.